Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game of Fans First Sports Network.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And we are glad you're here to join us here as we do this thing on the Believe Network. And first of all, our guy was dedicated. Radius in there an hour early to stay in to listen to us over there in London time, and he said he had to pause the Bootleg Football Commanders episode. But I mean, listen, Radius, I don't mean to throw smoke, but I would imagine that's a low bar for us to clear. I'm talking trash. It's okay. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I have no problem. I show plenty of love to the Commanders all the time, and yeah, that's still the thing I'm sticking to, Travis. I'm sorry, but. Another thing we're sticking to, a little inside baseball, Travis. You corrected me to build the thumbnail this week that said things got better. I meant to put a question mark when I put an exclamation point. You didn't know that when you saw it. You said, no, let's not get too excited. Remember, high's not too high, low's not too low. And you corrected, like, as we're texting each other to set up the thumbnail like we do every week here on the Duval Dive. I'm like, I totally thought I put a question mark. But you know what? I'm about to. Here we go. And it was perfect. So there you go. But yeah, and the excitement is real. Carlos Reyes brings it up. 2 weeks left to get answers to the off season. And listen, some of those answers we probably saw here this past week, and I'm going to bring up the questions real quick here so people can know what it was what we asked leading into this game versus the Saints. Is the pass rush waking up was one of them. And Travis, I'm going to go ahead. I think we should get started there. And again, just to be clear, like we did for the Duval Dive Live, which we did for this past game, the instant reaction, which we will do for the upcoming game, the instant reaction to all of that. But all that to be said, yeah, maybe it was just the Saints, but we definitely saw things that we didn't before. And hey, listen, I'm going to say it again because I'm a noble man. Dwan Smoot, you're impressing me, sir. You're impressing me.
I love how everybody's talking about it now, man. But some of us is, hey,
you were on the train.
I'm not even going to pat myself on the back because that sounds like those people that pat themselves on the back because they got into Bitcoin early. I get it. I understand. Everybody not there. I got you.
It's a little bit of luck, is what you're saying.
I'm just happy y'all. I'm happy y'all caught on though. This is okay. Way to go, Smooth.
For real, yeah, no, and obviously seeing Trayvon Walker scaring the quarterback into an intentional grounding is always fun, whether it's a backup or not. But yeah, I mean, the question as it was posed, Travis, did the pass rush wake up? I feel like we saw a little more and went in that correct direction. Mason Smith being back in the lineup, things like that is a good thing. I don't know. What do you have for us?
No, I think they absolutely showed us everything we needed to see. So why talk about it? I'll just show you. Like, the fact of the matter is,
show don't tell. There it is.
You got Dewey getting the sack early on in the series, man. Like, and that is everything. Yeah, it was a weird play call as far as the scheme is concerned for the Saints, but overall, nevertheless, the Jaguars defense did exactly what it was supposed to do. Dewey gets the easy sack on Tyler Shaw. Then you get Trayvon Walker just destroying the guard and also still getting basically a sack on the quarterback. Then you get Ventrell Miller and Smoot again. Comboing at the quarterback. I mean, pretty much the whole dang defensive line is there. Like, that is what you want to see right there, bro.
Right.
Like, after that first week, when you have questions on whether or not that defensive line, whether or not that defense, etc., are going to be there, and then they just like, oh, hi, yeah, we're here. Yeah, we heard you. All right, cool. I appreciate that. Good job, guys.
Yeah, especially after opening with the Steelers the way they did the first game. There were questions. They answered some of them. And, hey, what if Eric Armstead actually ends up being good after he's skipping camp because he's a veteran? That only leads to the positive trending. I have to throw that out there.
Sure. And again, I don't know how to feel about that because, I mean, you know, anytime you have a guy who's just older and they miss the camp, that's a whole different conversation. And interestingly enough, it's a conversation I want to have on Fridays, Duval Dives, if you don't mind me pocketing that one, just because I think it's worth the conversation before
I'm mad at you. I just have to mention it. I didn't realize
No.
It's going to be fun. I like that. Anyways.
I'm ready for that one.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that you mentioned Ventrell Miller. I know that there's a lot of it's very interesting how many snaps he's getting, by the way. I have to say, I like that. I think they're trying to build him and see what they got. That tells me they have a lot of confidence in the guys they brought in, whether it's Jack Kaiser, whatever's going on there. It's a good conversation to start having. And while I am going to steal, air quotes, a little bit from my guy T-Wigs of Locked On Jaguars, and I hinted at it earlier anyway, so it's not a full-on larceny, but I'm going to pick back and say Chad Muma might be in a little bit of trouble here based on what we've seen lately. The fascinating conversation.
We thought it might be the case beforehand, bro, but it is looking more and more and more likely as this preseason keeps going on with Jack Kaiser neck and neck in my competition between Jack Kaiser and Ventrell Miller for my defensive players of the game, because just those guys who got enough snaps to kind of be worthwhile, but also those same guys who played just that well. And the fact of the matter is, Chad Muma was not in that conversation after giving up that long, catch to the tight end, and he actually didn't have a bad game. It's just those other two guys had good games, and that's not the same conversation.
Correct. Yeah, and at the end of the day, when you're coming this close, well, I don't think Chad Muma had an option. I'm just saying he's that far along as a young man. And it may be time. It may just be time for them to move off him, and maybe Chad Muma does well elsewhere. It wouldn't be the first time. I want to get in here real quick. I know it's not necessarily Jaguar related. Radius, I'm glad to tell you that Travis and I, being in Central Florida, have not yet felt the effects of Hurricane Aaron, at least not as far as a storm. I did forget to do something over the weekend I was supposed to. So my wife became Hurricane Aaron. I'm joking. That's not a thing that.
Bro, I am so much of a Floridian. I ain't even realized the hurricane was here. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, it's to that level. So.
I kind of forgot about it too until Radius brought it up. I didn't want to be that cocky, but you're not wrong. I was in that same state. I'm like, oh, and Miss Bermuda too? Cool. So So
shout out Greg Cross in the comments, because we got a bone to pick with you. We got to talk. We got to have a conversation with you about a comment you made. Oh no, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. I got a comment. We got to have a conversation about something that you said a few weeks ago. I think it's time to kind of broach that.
I agree with you entirely. And hitting the card, we did mention the consistency at linebacker too, but Milam and Monheim pushing. There's another M we'll get into, but I got to tell you, Travis, your theory of the center that can move being a problem is getting a little defeated. However, I think you're going to enjoy why it's going to be okay. And I'm not going to toot my horn, but the third M, in case y'all don't know, is for Macari over there. Patrick Macari doing things. And you know what? I'm going off script in a slight way, because normally if it's O-line talk, I get all excited. But what you guys didn't see pre-show as we do our rundown going in to make sure we make the best show for you guys that we can, Travis D. Holmes was stoked to talk offensive line. I'm going to let him do it. Travis, show. Don't tell.
That's wild. The fact I'm a DB, I don't get excited about O-line talk. I don't get excited about the big guys. I get excited about the little ones. And this one had me jacked because no one's talking about my boy Patrick Macari. And I know this is a Wyatt Milam and Jonah Monheim segment, and I'm going to get back to them. I promise you. But we got to see this, bro. Wyatt, I'm sorry, goodness gracious. Patrick Macari's game that he played, his job is to get this defensive tackle out of the way, and he does that in spades. I'm talking about pancaking dude on his back on top of. I put another 300-pound dude on top of another 300-pound dude in the middle of an NFL football game. He's looking for action on a passing play from the quarterback. And on the first play, my boy's doing a Superman dive, literally horizontal. He's 15 pounds? Horizontal in the air trying to block a dude out of the hole. Look at this mess. Are you kidding me? His job is to get this dude out of the A gap, and he gets him to the opposite A gap. That is what I'm talking about.
I'm going to pause the video because I do feel a little bit of ways about that. Because
come on.
This isn't me criticizing him. I'm observing something a little different than you, because he takes his first steps to the right when no one's there. But and granted, I don't know the blocking scheme or the philosophy. I am not there on the field standing there between the offensive linemen. I don't know what their thing is. But in my day, it went head up, inside, outside as far as responsibility. Now, he floats outside first. So I'm not going to say he messed up, but it's counterintuitive for him to do that. However, having taken, air quotes, the wrong step, he goes Soulja Boy and Superman's that and still makes the damn play. So whether it was impressive and in designed and doing great things like you said, or one of the best recoveries I've ever seen a big guy make for a good play, this is still a win for the Jacksonville Jaguars, having Patrick McCarry on this lineup. This is why he's penciled in at guard. And hey, listen, I'm sure Wyatt Milo will be great. Inevitably, offensive linemen will be hurt. Inevitably, Patrick McCarry will play somewhere else at least one snap as a starter. I'm calling that here right now. Mark that if you want. But I feel way more confident about this Jacksonville Jaguar line than I even did talking about the whole, they're the best O-line because they're in flux. Their flux has reduced, and you're starting to see some things solidify. Again, it's not time to celebrate, but boy, howdy, you're seeing some of the receipts. You don't know what the gift that's bought, but you see the price tag, and it looks like it's from a store that you like to shop at. I'm just saying.
I mean, it's not bad. My point is, the fact of the matter is, Jacksonville Jaguar fans have often, and I mean for probably the last decade, complained that when the Jaguars have offensive linemen that's always looking back at the quarterback. They're always looking back at him as he's getting hit. They're always standing. They always standing around, like looking around, looking for action. And this dude is legitimately looking for action, and that's kind of my point. He is. Hey, I got a hand on this dude. Ain't nothing going on. I get upfield, and I'm trying to find work. Like, at minimum, that is everything to me, because it shows me not only is this dude out here pancaking dudes, not only is he out here Superman blocking dudes, but he's also trying to find that action, trying to find that work, and that again is everything. I mean, oh Lord, you got
let's get it out the way. I know, because I know by that laugh, I know you saw what I saw. Well, maybe I did.
No. I know what you're talking about, but I don't know if I want to address it yet, but we will get to it. But when Hef says his only concern is Fred Johnson's stamina. Fair. Fred Johnson is another conversation, and I think this is actually an appropriate time to kind of have the conversation that we were talking about pre-show. So we're talking about Fred Johnson. This is interesting because this is the best performance that the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line has had this preseason. I know we only have 2 games to kind of look at that for them, but even I'm looking at even the team periods in training camp, and I will still objectively say that was one of the better performances that I've seen them have. And it just so happens to happen on a week that Anton Harrison is not playing. And you have to ask yourself why. And I'm not saying Anton Harrison is the weak link or anything along those lines. I am not saying that. But what I am saying is Anton Harrison is the opposite of Fred Johnson.
You're not saying this, is what I think you're getting at.
I am not saying that.
But I am saying top rope saying that Anton is on the trade block. Let's not go nuts.
So, but my problem or my conundrum is that Fred Johnson, in a lot of ways, is the opposite of Anton Harrison. Fred Johnson is bigger than Anton Harrison and better in the running game. Anton Harrison is lighter and better in pass protection than Fred Johnson. Fred Johnson has an issue anchoring. So a lot of the time when he gets impacted catching the defensive ends, he's kind of floating back towards the quarterback and giving the quarterback a smaller pocket to work from. Whereas Anton Harrison has a better anchor and he's better to kind of make those pockets. I'm not even an offensive guy, and I notice these things. So they're just different in those ways. But fortunately, that means in this game with Anton Harrison playing and with Patrick McCarry playing out of his mind, you then have a situation where the Jaguars' run game looks the best as it's ever looked. And it just also coincides with them having a guy who's a better run blocker in Fred Johnson playing at right tackle because Anton Harrison is injured. What do you do with that? Because again, if you put both of those guys together, you got the perfect right tackle, but you can't. So where do you go? Do you go with the guy who's a better pass protector, or do you go with the guy who's a better run blocker and just deal with whatever the other side of that looks like? That's a hard one, boy. That's a hard one.
And I know we're talking a lot about run blocking, but Carlos Reyes makes a point that I think rings clear. Last, I think on the Duval Dive Live, we were talking about the running backs and how the line made them shine. I don't think we talked enough about it Sunday. I'm sure we brought it up, but it should be accented in both the previous games that, Trevor looked more confident, granted, in a grand total of 3 drives, looked more confident. Even having his foot stepped on and then leading the group right back down the field, being virtually unstoppable. The Saints had no answers to go down and score anyway. They could only stop themselves in true Jaguar fashion. However, I feel like the Ezra Cleveland step is just enough bringing things back to earth to keep Jacksonville Jaguar fans on an even keel so they wouldn't overreact. That is the positive I am taking out of this, Travis D. Holmes.
It is a rite of passage. If you don't step on Trevor Lawrence's feet or trip him in some kind of way, then you are not a Jacksonville Jaguars offensive lineman. I'm sorry. This is kind of this. These are the rules. I ain't making. Urban Meyer wrote the guidelines. This is what it is. But so to Greg Cross. We've been sitting on this for a few weeks. I want to be very clear and letting people know because I've mentioned it to Greg on the socials multiple times. We had a full deep dive conversation with Jordan DeLugo over shout out Jan Jag weeks ago when he was on the podcast when I told him, hey, I got a deep dive I want to kind of run by you guys. I've been mulling over it for a while. But Greg says, so I'd say Jacksonville has pieces together for a nice offensive guard combo of good value players in Ezra Cleveland, Robert Hainsey, and Patrick McCarry, despite the low capital spent on them. What I don't see yet is a road grader type, like awesome offensive guard Laken Thompson, 2023-2024 49ers, or an Alan Faneca, David DeCastro types.
As a Niner fan, Faneca's a much better example, Greg. Side note.
And interestingly enough, that was my original philosophy. Kyle is my witness. I originally said, hey, I want these offensive linemen that are 330 pounds. I want a guy who's 350. I don't care. I want all these dudes who are road graders, who are moving dudes, because that's my personal preference. And I don't think most people in the league would disagree with you, but I wanted to kind of take a look at what are the other schemes that are running this Sean McVay system looking like. Like if you're talking about weight, you're talking about what like weight distribution and the types of run games that they're actually like performing and schemes that they're putting on the field. Well, the Rams offensive line is one of the biggest ones actually in the NFL period, but also in this Sean McVay system. They run more gap man. They were first in the NFL in running gap man in 2024 because they had an average weight of 324 freaking pounds, and that's with the 285-pound center. These are some big guys, and they getting out there moving folks. Like, I need y'all to understand that is the North Star for all of these guys running that Sean McVay system. Like, that's what everyone wants to do, but everybody can't do it because everybody don't got the dogs to do it. Mm-hmm. So the Bucs tried to start their season off with their average weight of 313 pounds in 2024. They tried to start being a heavy zone team early in the year, and then they realized, hey, we actually can do this gap scheme thing. Our guys just are made up enough to be able to do that, and they did late in the season, and it worked very well for them. But then the Vikings were they're only a few pounds lighter, but for whatever reason, they felt like they couldn't run more gap man blockings in 2024. So they were almost exclusively, primarily, wide zone blocking scheme. Well, where are the Jaguars right now? They're exactly the same weight, down to the pound for their starting five as the 2024 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So then there's just the question mark of, hey, what do they want to be as far as their run game is concerned? But also look at all the guys they brought in. Specifically, look at just looking at the weights and the types of guys that they are. Like Chuma Edoga, 315 pounds. Like he's basically the same, 10 pounds heavier than Patrick McCarry, 3 pounds heavier than Ezra Cleveland. And again, he's a dog in the run game. You saw that last week against Pittsburgh. Jonah Monheim is 6 pounds heavier than Robert Hainsey, again, as a rookie. And you've seen how he's been performing this preseason. Wyatt Milam, 317 pounds, 12 pounds heavier than Patrick McCarry. And again, Patrick was actually playing well, being the lightest guy on this offensive line. And Fred Johnson is 11 pounds heavier than Anton Harrison, and he is a better run blocker. I don't even think that's arguable because Anton's not very good. He hasn't been in the league at least not at this point. So again, it seems very obvious what the Jaguars want their offensive line to be eventually, whether or not it's going to be this year or 2 years from now, whatever that goal is. But they want to be the Rams. They want to get a bigger offensive line, a heavier offensive line, so they don't have to run zone, so they can just run more man or more gap schemes and just move people out the way, because it's like NBA basketball, baby. Nobody wants to play zone. We want to play man. Zone is for cowards, but you do it if you have to. It's just kind of it's a part of the game at this point. So that's kind of my philosophy on this. Like, that's what they want to be, but if you see them running more zone, that is probably why. They just don't got the dogs to do what they really want to do, if that makes sense. I hope that made sense, and I hope I ain't bore y'all with too many of them numbers.
First of all, bore me. You're gonna bore me with O-line talk? The hell wrong, chill. Second, as far as number goes, I if you mentioned it, I missed it. Alan Faneca. I said that because it's in the thing. Faneca said, Greg Cross says he agrees with me about Faneca. Luke Fortner, in a twist of irony, the exact same weight as Robert Hainsey, for those who are wondering.
That's crazy. Also, yeah.
So I don't know what to do with that, but Jonah Monheim coming through to win the day on that. The way they're pull blocking and working in the tight ends to create blocking lanes in the first half against the Saints look smart. By the way, as a side note, Radius, that's the reason why Brenton Strange is here and not Evan Ingram.
Max.
Shouts to my dude.
Brenton Strange and Hunter Long. They both had really good games blocking.
Not to throw any shade at my dude Ben Troop, but we tried to tell you, homie. Anyway.
Hey, you got to be able to block, man. That's what it comes down to. You got to be able to block, and these dudes can do it in spades. If nothing.
And Storm the Desert, again, being thoroughly eloquent, a point I feel like I've been trying to make since I announced my crackheadiest take, and saying that the Jags could win this division because their O-line depth is changed so much. The O-line depth, says Storm to the Desert, the O-line depth has me feeling way better than last year. Last year, it felt like the end of the world if any standing O-line got hurt. Now it doesn't seem like the end of the world if someone goes down. Perfectly described, Storm. I love it.
That is it, man. They have options available, and they have options in spades, and that's what this really comes down to. Now, it does suck that Wyatt Milam is now week to week after the Saints game. Like, that was just terrible timing for it. But nevertheless, even with Milam being week to week, I mean, we are a few weeks from the season. We don't know exactly what the injury is or the duration of the injury, so we'll see how that lands. But hey, man, they got options. And Jonah Monheim is also playing with his hair on fire, which then allows them to trade away Luke Fortner, which, I mean, I know most of Duval County was looking forward to that. So y'all can dance in y'all streets, enjoy y'all vacation, enjoy y'all celebration for Luke Fortner no longer being here. And again, we'll talk more about Colin Saunders on Friday's defensive tackle Duval dive. That's going to be a little more interesting. But yeah, man, it's a good time for Jaguar fans because you're seeing the plan of this offensive line depth and having these 6 guys with versatility come to fruition. Hopefully it comes to fruition and when the games matter. But yeah, for the moment, it's good.
Since we featured his tweet, I feel like we should entertain this comment here on Armstead. He is local to here in NorCal, Elk Grove High School to Oregon Ducks, of course, to San Francisco, where he where he is rested, he is nailed. In fact, I rode in a cab with his parents to his very first game in San Francisco. Great people. That's a nugget. Okay. I appreciate it.
Okay.
So, and then Reyes comes in off the top row. Strange looked great. Balky somewhere saying, I wasn't that bad. Yeah, he got Brian Thomas Jr. too. Here's the thing. LaQuint Allen's a 7th-round pick, and he looked awesome. When have you ever said anything like that about Trent Baalke? Moving on.
But Trent Baalke, man, we gotta let the hurt go. Y'all sound some jealous exes. Trent Baalke was bad because Trent Baalke could not work with the coaches, and Trent Baalke could not bring in a good coach because he would stab him in the back, and Trent Baalke could not work with the free agency because he would overvalue 1, draft picks, and 2, kind of just like hold on to the wallet a little too tight for a team that has so much money. So no. Overall, Trent Baalke. Yeah, he hit on some of these picks, and I'm never going to give him shade on that. Like that was probably one of his better draft classes these last few. And nevertheless, his negatives seriously overshadowed all those positives. Like there's no question.
Yeah, for sure.
So, let it go.
Yeah, Greg quickly said he meant to mention when Eric Armstead is rested. Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
Well,
yeah.
He will be rested. I give him that.
And Radius makes the point. Trent traded up for Snoop Connor again. Not wrong.
Jesus.
2 words. LaVisca Chenault. Anyways,
so
speaking of receivers who can catch, Parker Washington ascending. Travis.
Absolutely.
Listen, I mean, granted, the reason he was open for that touchdown catch was awesome. Was a route by Brendan Strange that pulled the linebacker in to set the opening up. Just throwing that out there. But yeah,
sure.
And somebody hit us up on Twitter, something about haven't you guys seen him? And I with all due respect, if you're listening, I completely missed the name on Twitter to bring it up here. We know Parker Washington's been doing stuff for the past 2 years. I think what we're pointing out is Parker Washington is pretty much a lock to make this roster, though I entertained maybe the team moving off of him. It's been made clear that they don't listen to Kyle on this particular point. And Parker Washington is versatile enough to be utilized in that underneath and screen game just as much as the long game. They've opted to put him there because that's where they need him. They got guys who could already stretch the field.
So, and that for me, that's someone who was commenting on the socials, and I remember the tweet, and it was someone who was commenting on socials that didn't listen to the podcast, because had they listened to the podcast, they would have understood. They would have fully understood our point, or even listened to the short. They would have fully understood.
Responded as such too, for clarity. But continue.
Yeah, but overall, it's not about Parker Washington being used. It's about how Parker Washington has been used. Like the fact that he gets 5 and 6 and 7 reps and they're all screens and bubble screens and throws at the line of scrimmage, that's not the same as being used down the field and actually allowing him to stretch the field and show those aerobic catches that we've seen in training camp for the last 2 years and all of that. That's different. So I'm happy to see him make this touchdown catch. I'm happy to see him get into the end zone and actually have another catch on that same drive. But what I'd be happier to see is him actually being able to fill into one of those wide receiver 3 roles and kind of see him work down the field a little bit more. And maybe we'll see some of those one-handed catches on Sports Center Top 10 when he gets one of those opportunities that we see in practice all the time.
How many receivers on this roster, Travis, are capable of having that da-da-da moment? I'm just saying. I mean, we could go back to saying that now that Rich Eisen's on Sports Center again, right? Like,
I don't know the rules, man. But no, Radius.
I don't even watch Sports Center anymore.
And for the folks who didn't notice them, or who just, this is one of the few places where they get their Jaguars news. Joshua Cephas was released with an injury designation early this afternoon. The team announced. So if he ends up clearing waivers, as most players who are injured, who are released with an injury designation, they do clear waivers. If he ends up clearing waivers, then he would revert back to the Jaguars reserve PUP list, which essentially is the IR. And then he'd have the option to maybe be released with an injury settlement, like Levi Wallace did, the cornerback who was recently, released. They end up coming to an injury settlement the next day. Or Cooper Hodges is the opposite example, where he's just on IR at this point once the season starts. They have both options. We'll see where that lands, but that's kind of what happened recently.
Storm comes in. Parker Washington gives you depth where it's not the end of the world if one of the primary 3 receivers gets hurt, correct? Or it could allow Hunter to play more defensive back if there's an injury in the secondary. Or Storm, great points. I'd even add, what if Travis Hunter needs a break? I mean, how about that? Can we let this dude breathe? Hey, he's playing both sides all game, Like let's say what they're facing. Let's say it's the Bengals game and the fireworks are flying. He's already got 2 touchdowns, and then on the other side, like I don't know, maybe they put him on. I was just about to say AJ Green. No, it's Jamar Chase, right?
I got it.
It's Jamar Chase and their other receiver whose name's escaping me, who was connected to the Jags at one point. He's just guarding him. Might need a break, so you let Parker Washington do some reps.
Well, no, I mean, and Greg asked another question. Hey, Denver just traded the 4th rounder for someone less proven than Parker Washington.
Great point, Greg.
And he's basically asking, hey, would we trade Parker Washington for a 4th? And I'm like,
not really. Not at this point.
I don't see it. Like, somebody gonna get hurt, and I know you want the rookies to play, and I get it. But the fact of the matter is, once you get to Parker Washington, after Parker Washington, it's all coin flips, man. This is just rolling the dice at this point. I don't know what's gonna happen there, and I wouldn't want to have to run that out there. But nevertheless, Trevor Lawrence just led an offense down the field against backups for the Saints. Let's be clear, and nearly the entire backup defense with what was it? Austin Trammell, Parker Washington, and Brian Thomas Jr. were the 3 receivers for that drive, and I'm like, oh, Austin Trammell. That's an option. Like, people love that Wes Welker. He can be Jacksonville's Wes Welker, I guess.
Well, and then 2 weeks ago, we were talking about Trenton Irwin, right? So, there's that. Yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah. And also, Zenith asked the question. Well, I won't say makes a statement. So, talking about Joshua Cephas. So, Joshua Cephas goes down mid-game, plays the rest of the game, and then he's released with an injury 2 days later. Well, that's why they have imaging. Like you don't know maybe it was an injury that he thought he can play through, and then he gets an X-ray or an MRI or something after the game, and they're like, "Oh, that's rough." And then you're just stuck with a situation like that. That's it can easily be something along those lines.
Right, recovery is a beast, and what is it that Rick James says on the Dave Chappelle special? Cocaine is a hell of a drug. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug.
Like F your couch. That's true.
F your couch also applies, but I was thinking, what did the 5 fingers say to the face? Slap. And no, we're all over the place. I love it, but the punchline is, that's not unheard of for something to come out later and be like, yo, that's going to be a problem. Recovery is going to be long term.
Right. I mean, that's it. Right. Exactly. That's it. You never know. Slap. And you can get through, and Radius says you can get through a lot of adrenaline, but it can make your recovery long. You can get through a lot with adrenaline.
You could have upset it even worse playing through it. That's a great point, Radius. I think that's something we need to point out. So, yeah, exactly.
But how did you feel about the miscues? Like, we know about the big one, obviously. We know about the fumble with Ezra Cleveland stepping on Trevor's foot and everything else. But how do you feel about it? Like, where do you land on this?
3 first down, not having 3 first downs given up on defense by penalties makes me feel good. Can we start there?
Right. I mean, they only the starting defense only got like what was it, the 1 sack? But then technically speaking, if you want to count the intentional ground in a 2nd sack, because it really was. It's basically for all intents and purposes, it's a 2nd sack.
From your guy DeJuan Smoot, Travis.
All right, so for all intents and purposes, that's your 2nd sack. But the fact of the matter is, the Saints weren't getting first downs against the Jaguars starting defense. So if you only give up 4 first downs overall, then you are getting off the field. So you're not going to have very many opportunities to get sacks. So you're getting sacks on a quarter of your passing plays. All right, that's pretty dope. If you had a quarter pass rush win rate in the NFL, you'd be an all-pro. Like, so they obviously did well, but against the Saints backups. So I want to be clear in saying this, Duval. I'm happy that everyone's happy, but I also called that this would happen. I called that this would happen on Tuesday of last week because they were playing against the Saints backups. And we are currently celebrating. So this is the part after we've spent 32 minutes of this podcast celebrating the positives. All right, cool.
Well, and you were mentioning miscues. I got to pose this question before you lower the hammer, because I think this is relevant, right? Because what was it we said? 8 penalties against the Steelers, right?
Right.
Penalties don't necessarily have anything to do with whom you're playing against, right? These are self-inflicted wounds.
Facts.
Okay. Cutting them in half with getting only 4 penalties is a positive.
0 with the starters. No penalties with the starters.
Exactly.
First penalty didn't come to 13 minutes left in the 2nd quarter, and that was a Jonah Monheim. No, was it Jonah Monheim or White Melons?
Get called for? I'm sorry. How does
number 60? Is that Monheim or is that White Monheim? I always forget now.
Well, no. I know it was Monheim because he was playing center, and I said, "How does the center get called for that? How do you get a false start as a center? You start the bleeping play. Why are we not?" Anyway, I said
so overall, I'm happy that everyone in Duval County is happy, but I said this from the jump that this is how this is going to happen. They were going to play well against the Saints, and then the Saints also played most of their backups, which made it even more obvious to me that, all right, they're going to play well against the Saints, even though the Saints had maybe better depth as far as their 3rd stringers and 4th stringers overall. And you kind of saw that with how the game ended up going after the 3rd stringers and 4th stringers for Jacksonville came in versus their 3rd and 4th stringers. But you're playing against a backup NFL roster as you're starting Jacksonville Jaguars offense and defense. You should have looked that dominant. I want to be very clear in saying you should have looked that dominant. This is what should have been expected in week 1 that didn't happen. So we are currently celebrating them for walking and chewing gum. And I don't want to minimize it, but I also want to be real about what it is. That way we kind of can have an honest and real conversation. We're celebrating this NFL football team for being able to line up and not trip over their own shoelaces and just be an average NFL football team.
But
they did do that.
Cleveland thing, bro.
because they kind of did that too. But so I want to be very clear saying it. They should be applauded, but also realize that ain't the goal, bro. Now that we're past that game and it's in the past, that ain't the goal. The goal is not beating a New Orleans Saints team whose entire defense, other than 2 players, are sitting down, and all of the key players on their offense, other than Chris Olave, are also sitting. That is not the goal, is to dominate those guys, because we still has up yet. And Liam Cohen said it in practice on, what was it, Tuesday? They have yet to face a starting roster again on the opposite side from them. So they've done well in achieving the small mountains, the small hills,
which
the
I think
pebbles and such.
This inner squad this week is going to be a very interesting thing too, because they will be playing starters. And I have the comment up for Carlos. I want to address something first of all. And I know maybe it's just because I just had a birthday this past weekend, but Chappelle's Show is the comment from Carlos Reyes. Chappelle's Show, I feel that shows your age. I love it. First of all, how do you not know if I'm just a cultured young man? Did you think about that, Carlos? Did you think about? No, I'm old as hell.
If you are a young man and you don't know what Chappelle's Show, I question your parents. I'm sorry, like exactly. No. This ain't about age at this point. This is about knowing what's going on in society. And Chappelle's Show is the best sociology and history teacher ever. Like, I don't care. Y'all need to understand.
He may use a few words that I'm not allowed to say, but he does it.
So I just want to be clear about what it is. Like, I'm happy that the Jaguars performed in the ways that you would expect an NFL football team perform, but also saying that ain't the goal. Now we can start having real conversations about what we expect of this NFL franchise 2 weeks before the season is going to be here, and the ammunition is clocked in the guns, and it's time to fire. Like, this thing is real. So we're there. Good job, Duval. I hope y'all enjoy your week, and I hope the joint practices are also incredible, because I expect them to be great. Also, I expect the Jaguars to perform well against the Miami Dolphins.
They better.
They're not very good. But again, it's 1 day of practice. People have, I don't know how that's going to land, but we'll probably do a short one.
We'll figure out what we can. We'll put it that way. But I think Radius and Carlos land the plane well. With Radius, he agrees in saying, it's the equivalent of turning up to school on time with your pencil case, which they didn't do against the Steelers
in week 1.
Avidly correct point. And then Carlos Reyes reminds us that's leaps and bounds over last year. To be fair, the man makes a valid point.
Leaps and bounds over last year. Yes, but we ain't comparing this against the 2023 and 2024 and 2021 Jacksonville Jaguars. Because if you comparing this team to the 2023 Jacksonville Jaguars or the 2021 Urban Meyer Jacksonville Jaguars, then you already hustling backwards. You already wrong. Like, you out of pocket, because that ain't the goal. The goal is not to be better than a sorry Jacksonville Jaguars team. If that was a goal, we could have kept Trent Baalke here. It's supposed to be something new. So if James Gladstone is out here saying that they want to act bold, no. We need to calm down. Jayville, I need y'all to act bold. Fans, act bold in the way that you imagine what this could be. I need you to act bold in your imagination. Act bold with your expectations for this team. Maybe not this year, but overall, you need to view this as better than just the bare minimum, better than just the average. So my aim and my goal for this Jacksonville Jaguars team is not just to beat an average NFL football team in the AFC South. It's to be an above average NFL team in the NFL, and then being able to challenge those other teams in the AFC. Like, that is the goal. That is the standard. And if you ain't meeting the standard, then you can get the hell out of the way. Like, that's it.
That's right. Your goal, Duval Devout, is to realize that this team can make Kyle's crackheadiest take become reality. Woo!
That's it. And that's the goal, man. So overall, it's a great performance for the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday against the New Orleans Saints, while also saying, now that we passed that test, the next test is right around the corner. Can you achieve success doing that? And can you build on that success in the following week and the following week and the following week? So when week 1 gets here, we are truly going to see this Jacksonville Jaguars team look like an above average NFL football team, and not just one playing against the AFC South.
See, PJ Brown already put his money where his mouth is, taking his team serious. Okay, I got 500 on us beating the Panthers. Can't wait to get that bread.
I hope you're right.
PJ, I got to tell you, it would be nice to see a win there, but that game is, listen. I'm not saying you shouldn't bet that. but that's going to be a sneaky good game. I'm not saying he won't win $500, but be ready for a few heart palpitations. You got a pair of cardiac cats doing battle with each other there.
Ready, it says, I want them to be watchable for at least 17 games and not have me dreading game day. That be an improvement on last year.
Doesn't even show that comment because it's the exact opposite of that beautiful sermon you just laid down, Reverend Holmes. I'm just saying.
But no, I think it's dope because I think it's a real conversation. And Zenith, we will have the whole 53-man conversation in the off week when we don't have a game.
That's the Tuesday after. What is it? Tuesday at 4:00 after the
on the 26th, 27th range.
26th. Very good, Travis. Nailed it. Yeah, no, you got it exactly right.
As a general question, do we think all 53 players are already in house? Hell no. Like no. I've been saying this for weeks. For weeks I've been saying the Jaguars are going to add, because someone asked me on one of the social Blue Sky, how many transactions did I see the Jaguars having during roster cuts? And I said 4 more, and they said 4, and I'm like, oh no. Yeah, I said no. And this is at the time before they had made the trade for a defensive tackle, before they had had all those different waiver wire cuts,
and then the one later this week, right?
No, this is even before that when they had added goodness gracious, they had added.
So technically, you're halfway home.
Free agent. No. In my head, I'm like, they've already made 3 transactions since I made that comment. Because again, that was like 2 weeks ago. Okay. They've already made 3 transactions. So in my head, I'm like, I knew they had to add a defensive tackle, a nose tackle type.
I thought you meant 4 from today. My bad. Okay.
No. So they had already added the defensive tackle. That's what I said. It had to be not just a defensive tackle like a 3 technique, but a 1 technique like a nose tackle. They just got that with Colin Saunders. I knew it. Well, in my head, I thought they had to add another safety. That's just kind of what my head was. I felt they needed just one more guy there. And also, I thought that there was a chance when it comes to roster cut time that they were going to bring in another offensive lineman, even though they have a boatload of offensive linemen right now. That's just my vibe.
I won't say no, but I wouldn't have agreed with you. Like, I don't think they will, but you can make just as good a defense that they would.
And then we have the additional conversation now where we can talk about the fact that they might be adding 1 or 2 more receivers. So that's a whole different thing.
That's interesting.
So that's a whole nother thing. We'll talk about it on Friday. But overall, that's kind of where I'm at, man. Like, I think this team, as far as the depth is concerned, I said it last week, and I'll say it again today. This was a rebuild or revamping of their depth as far as that's concerned, especially with the schemes that they're running over here versus the schemes that they were running under Ryan Nielsen's defense and under Doug Peterson's offense. And this is just going to take some time to build it up, and they're not going to be able to build it within 1 free agency cycle and 1 draft with the 10 picks that they had. Like, it's just not possible. So there's going to be a lot of tinkering at the bottom of that roster as they continue trying to bring in guys who are closer to that North Star, closer to that aim of what they're actually looking for, because all the guys here now won't be all the guys that's here next year. I'm sorry, that's the NFL. It is what it is.
Jarvis from 8-5 puts in, and he's matching your sermon's energy. I want them to be competing with the Texans for the division. We owe them from last year. That's a fine take from a member of the Duval Devout. Listen, I like it.
Now, I think that's a fair expectation, and I think if you're aiming lower than that, if you're aiming for the Jacksonville Jaguars to win 7 games, you should take a nap, man. Like, nah, we ain't having that conversation. Like, that's such a low bar, and I think people just have that PTSD from the Trent Baalke era that they're going to give these guys all the space, and I understand the grace that people are giving them in that, but no. This is 8 and 9 wins. Is the floor. If it's not 8 and 9 wins as the floor, I don't know why we here. What we doing? Like, I think that is the aim from my perspective. But yeah, 31-13, Jags win week 1. Lord.
See, hey, listen, all that PJ did was show us how confident he was and why he placed a $500 bet. And guys, you got the comments rolling in. I always love it. It's going to be a great time. But what else is going to be a great time? As we bring you more shows talking about what we expect for this week. But in the meantime, I got family. They miss me, allegedly. And I
allegedly miss you.
Too. I make jokes. Right. But yes, with that in mind, Travis, tell the world where you could be found.
Hey man, of course, you can find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes, whether it's Blue Sky X. I mean, you can find the Duval Dive on TikTok, YouTube. If you're listening, please hit that like button. Like, come on, man, help us out. Like button, it doesn't hurt you at all. You're already listening. Just click the button. If you're listening on the socials, pause the podcast, go over to YouTube and click like too, and then rate and review us wherever you're listening to, Apple, Spotify, etc. But find my writing covering the Jaguars, bigcatcountry.com. We have the Jaguars Saints rewatch article, 2,400 words to tell you all the stuff that you didn't see on first watch, with a lot of clips and highlights and all of that information already there. Favorite Big Cat Country, take a look there. And we also have the post-game recap there also. Maybe if we can find enough stuff on the socials, we'll give you a recap tomorrow of what's going on in joint practices. So keep it locked in, Duval Dive. Keep it locked in at bigcatcountry.com and tell them where you can be found, Mr. Nash.
Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, as well as Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me as a student of the game on Facebook. Check out my writing on your Jacksonville Jaguars, where I talk about my top performers from every preseason game here. Do it one last time, of course, this weekend before we get into the season proper. That'll be a fun time. Make sure you check that out, Fans First Sports Network. Of course, I am also now the producer for the Bolt Blitz Uncut. I'm talking Chargers. It's crazy. Where somebody on that show said Brandon Surf might be a better option for them because their O-line is that hurt. Aren't you glad you aren't there, Duval Devout? Anyways, make sure you check out my dude, Booga Peters, and Eddie Simons. This past week, we had Amy Trask on the show. That was fun, as well as Fernando Ramirez, beat writer for the Chargers as well with the Sporting Tribune. Make sure you check that out, Bolt Blitz Uncut. And then also my work with the Black and Gold Banneret. We're approaching college season. 2 days after final cuts, UCF debuts at the Bounce House. Make sure you check out me and Donnie Doc Struble there as we lead up to the season. You'll see plenty of things on the blackandgoldbanneret.com, as well as the Night Shift podcast as well. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. I already talked about the Duval Dive, and you better like and subscribe. God help you. And hey, shouts to the Mark Moses Show that I did a guest spot for here, talking all things sport here in Central Florida. Didn't do any Magic talk yet, but that's coming sooner than later, I'm sure. So,
hey,
for all you Duval divers out there who are still commenting away, thanks for the belated birthday wishes, Carlos, by the way. Keep it up. Keep the conversation going. We read these things. So if you come up with something cool after the show, you may hear the ish later this week. I'm just going to throw it out there. But for all you guys who continue to help us dive deep, for Duval, thank you very much. For Travis D. Holmes, my personal champion, this is Kyle Nash, the student of the game. And until next time, everyone, class dismissed.